Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Zee Garcia.
And I'm Camilla.
And today we are jumping back into our continuing campaign for Oathsworn into the Deepwood. We are up to chapters in the game 4, 5, and 6, okay? We have already covered the first 3. We did a video for that. Check out a link below for that one. This is filled with spoilers. If you haven't played this yet, and you want to, then don't watch this. But if you don't care, I suppose, or have already done it, then let's talk about this, okay? So these 3 episodes, this episode is called Riddle Me This because I found that there were a lot of riddles and puzzles and side steps.
Yeah, these are the first, I think, kind of series where we've seen puzzles come into it.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we kind of get into the discussion here in chapter, I think it was 5 specifically. Yes, chapter 5 specifically, we come across a character and we chose that story path. And that's kind of evolved. But yeah, it's definitely had a puzzly nature overtone to these 3, which was unique and I think interesting.
Right, and in 4 is the first time that we are presented with this deck of cards called the Zee deck, which is a serious left turn, I thought. From the first, the first 3 stories, they set a rhythm. You go through town, you talk to people, you visit here and visit there, you use your little lineup with the tokens, and then eventually you find some big bad and you fight them.
Right. So this is when we have literally gone into the Deepwood. It's that first time that we're like, oh, the subtitle of the game.
Right.
You know, we go into the Deepwood and we're camping out there. And it almost has a Seventh Continent kind of feel to it, where you have a card and you have to decide which way to go. And so you choose that card, and then your journal tells you how to set up the rest of them. It was really interesting. Felt like you were literally kind of carving your path through the Deepwood and making those decisions to see what you run into and what options open up.
I did find it a little hard to understand. Like, the way it was explained was a little tricky. I remember thinking, what are we doing? Like, it was a big left turn. To me, it kind of threw me a little bit. Because it's not like Seventh Continent in the way that those form a picture. This one is, it's free form. Every card matches everything. You know what I mean?
It's either a path or it's blocked.
Yeah.
One of the two. So it's almost more like a maze.
Right, and they're like, yeah, grab this deck, you put it in front of you. And I'm like, am I building it all? Am I supposed to be in the middle? I just remember it, all 3 of us were kind of, and it's us 2 playing on our friend Dallas. We all sort of thought, what's happening a little bit?
Right.
What is this? Where's this going? What are we doing exactly?
Right, we're like, what is the journal? Because it also brings up the journal. You have to have that. And we're like, what is that? Where do we find that? Like you said, it was a really big left turn.
Yeah. But it's interesting, and I do like that feeling of not knowing when you'll be done. Needing, this is the one that gave us provisions and stuff, right? We needed provisions to get through. So that feeling of, are we going to make it? Are we going to starve along the way? What's going to happen? Things we encounter, you're like, what's going on?
Right.
This is very different. And so I like that. It feels, again, like a maze, like a puzzle that you are trying to figure out. There's definitely a right way and a wrong way. Sometimes you hit a dead end and you're like, okay, let's backtrack.
I did think it was really interesting in that episode, though, it is an episode. Yeah, I think they're called episodes.
Chapter? I don't know what they're called,
whatever. But as you're going, and you literally just come upon this Scar tribe that you end up fighting in that one. So I thought that was interesting because a lot of times when it has the 2 parts with the city and then it breaks and you go outside and fight a monster, or the monster comes in, one of the 2. This was one of those you kind of stumble upon it depending on which path you've gone. It's like, oh, I guess we're fighting now. And I thought that was really interesting. It caught you off guard a little bit more than it has in some of the other chapters.
Yeah, and up to this point, I would say that this is my favorite fight so far, too. Because I really liked...
It was interesting.
The lots of normal-sized people, or whatever you want to call them. I was going to say a bunch of little guys, but they're like normal-sized. But I I thought that worked really well.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I have trouble with the larger base creatures knowing which way they move on the map. And you sort of go like, yeah, it should be here, right? I think it's here. I don't know. It moves 6, and it kind of, the base is 3x3, so it's like, why? I don't know. There. The little guys have a single base like we do, the way we move, so it all makes sense.
Right.
And immediately it felt like a fight, like them versus us, not like this one big hunky thing versus us.
With all these different sides. You know, you actually turn it over and say each have their 6 hit points, and their stats change as they get enraged, and their numbers dwindle, and they get stronger, and it's really, really an interesting tactical fight.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, in its own way, a different kind of puzzle. Right? Who are you going to take out when? How are you going to corner them? How are you going to get them together? Like, we definitely found ourselves coordinating our efforts a lot in this fight.
Right.
So.
And then besides that, then we get into that guy who gives us riddles. So we were given a riddle, right? And we solved that riddle. And this guy, remind me if I'm wrong here, he joins our party.
He does eventually, because we solved his big overall riddle. It was like 2 or 3, stages deep, and we just stuck with it, kept going through town with him and trying to... We chose that path specifically.
Right.
And, then he ended up joining our party, which means you're shuffling event decks both into the town deck and the Deepwood deck.
You get new cards in there, and every now and then you hit one, and it's a riddle. Mm-hmm. And it, again, it's sort of weird, because you're doing these mechanical things in the game.
Yeah.
Where the rules tell you, go here, then do this, then do that. And every now and then you draw a card, and it's like, okay, guys, here's a riddle we have to all solve.
Yeah.
You listen to it, and you're like, ooh, what is that? Okay, say it again. What is that?
Yeah.
And I love that, the break of that in the middle of the campaign. It felt like these 3 chapters, they took the first 3 stories, the first 3 chapters, to set the ground rules. And these next 3 kind of go, okay, you got that? Now here's everything we're going to do that's going to mess that up.
Yeah.
Here's all these weird curves we're going to throw at you with breaking or changing, I shouldn't say breaking, changing immersion and riddles and puzzles and paths and new things being found out. Mm-hmm. And I really like that. I like that the game already, this early on, is throwing us curveballs.
Yeah. I agree. It definitely kind of reminded me of, I enjoy hiking, and so as you're hiking, just those conversations that you have, as you're just walking and walking and walking, and the little side conversations and, daydreaming that you kind of do. That's kind of what these puzzles felt like. You're out, you're venturing in the deep woods, and it's like, and we end up talking about a puzzle and solving it, and then keep going on our journey. That's kind of felt like that same cadence, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and then in Chapter 6, which is what we'll wrap up here today, I thought that this one had a tremendous story, and the storytelling and the writing and it kind of grabbing us. It grabbed me. I thought it was fantastic. The story of a kingdom and the people who live there and their rank in society and who we should help and why. And the game, it really makes you feel invested in these these characters' lives. It does a fantastic job of that. Yeah,
for sure. And it really makes you question deeply what you're going to do, because we've made some really difficult decisions up till now, and we're starting to see some of the resolution of those decisions or some of the consequences of those decisions even. And so we were presented with, I believe, Lady Marquina, I think it was. We were presented with this thing. Do we, vote to annul her marriage or not? Is she telling the truth or not? Is she being forced into this marriage, or is she nefarious and doing this other guy wrong? And we're like,
who do you trust? How do you, and it feels like it matters. These things are not just like a little throwaway decision you make, but you're like, do we need to stick to our, decision for possibly repercussions here?
We're sure we're gonna, we're going to trust this person or vote this way because it's going to affect our party, maybe our provisions, maybe events that we come in contact later on, keeping items, getting rid of items. Like, it does feel like it's very much shaping our path, and that feels weighty. I really like that.
Right.
It feels like we're making big decisions, and encourages you to take those seriously. And we are, I mean, some of these decisions, we have a 5-minute conversation, amongst us at the table of who to trust, who not, what do we think, weighing our pros and cons, just like I think you would do in real life,
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. Or say interesting again. I keep that. That's my word for these 3 chapters. It's really interesting, really interesting. But yeah, it's really weighty, and I like that. You talked about the other one being one of your favorite puzzles. This had my favorite like puzzle element to it when we were going through it was a dungeon or a jail or something.
Oh, we're breaking in.
Yes, we're breaking in and we're listening to the different footsteps, whether they're going upstairs, whether it's flat, how long the footsteps are for. Reminded me a lot of like Stop Thief. When you're hearing and you're trying to say, okay, well, they opened a door, so they could be here or here or here. Okay, after the door was stairs. All right, so it couldn't be here. Now it could be this. Oh, unless they're going counterclockwise because you don't know which way they're going. So again, This was just so fun to me. I really, really enjoyed this puzzle as we're mapping it out because you also don't have a picture because we hadn't gotten all the clues in the town phase.
That's right.
So we hadn't gotten all the clues.
Yeah, if you like talk to the right people and get these maps,
right,
then you get to see the thing. Otherwise, you're like, I think we can jump in the room now. I think they passed by, but you're not sure. And we had like 2 out of 3 or something like that.
Right.
And you're trying to figure out which of the 2 goes to which of the 3 things we're hearing.
Right, and you also don't know which way, which way is it upside down, which way is up and down. It was so unique and so very, very well done where it can be solved with logic, but it is multi-step to get there and definitely a team effort. So this was by far my favorite puzzle of the 3. I thought it was very, very well designed and very engaging.
Yeah, and I really like that idea of playing a game, especially a campaign game like this, and it breaking up its rhythm, its cadence with a little something extra, a little puzzle, a little like, okay, now look at this and see if you can figure it out, or, okay, here's a riddle for you, or whatever, just something. Yeah. And I think this game does it tremendously well, where sometimes it's just a solid story and a solid fight, but every now and then it gives you a little something to kind of give you that 7th inning stretch, like, hey, you're like, oh, hey, okay, hold on, what is this now? We have to listen, and what? What? How's this work? And I like that. It's not, I think if it did it all the time, it would just be like an exit the game or an unlock or something.
Or that Echoes series, which is a listening.
Yeah. But used sparingly, it manages to really liven up and punctuate the proceedings here.
Right, and I think a lot of times my concern or complaint with what I'll call the game within a game, the puzzle within the game that you're playing, the game within the game is it kind of breaks that immersion. And I didn't find that with these. I really felt like, no, this is what we would be going through in this story, in this scenario.
Right.
It didn't feel like we stepped out to play an abstract game real quick or something, And so I really felt like, no, we really are just moving the story and the campaign forward and forging our own path in doing so.
Yeah, it's a bit of role-playing, isn't it? I mean, It's like when that guy comes up to us and asks us a riddle, he's asking our free company.
Correct, yeah.
When we are trying to break into the castle or whatever it was, by listening to people's footsteps and comparing them to maps we found in town, we are literally doing it's a bit of role playing. It's immersion. It gets you actually deeper in there. So
yeah, absolutely. It definitely is selling it, and like I said, it increases that thematic immersion, which is again unique. I think that's so very well done in this.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. That is chapters 4, 5, and 6 in Oathsworn Into the Deepwood. Make sure you stick with us. Keep playing if you're playing along, so that you can join our discussion upcoming here for the next 3 chapters. We're going to be doing 3 at a time, unless something changes. We're going to be doing 3 at a time. Okay. So there you go. That's going to do it for us. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching these, everybody. My name is Zee Garcia.
And I'm Camilla.
We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Hey Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.